Have you ever wondered why we work 40 hours a week? It feels like a rule set in stone, doesn't it? Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. But where did this number even come from? And in a world of AI, remote work, and constant connectivity, does it still make any sense? Well, to understand our present, we have to journey back in time to a period of smoke, steel, and radical change, the Industrial Revolution. Before the late 18th century, most people worked on farms. Their schedules were dictated by the sun and the seasons, not a clock on the wall. But then, everything changed. Factories sprung up in cities, and with them came a new way of life. People flocked from the countryside for a chance at a steady wage, but what they found was brutal. Factory owners, driven by profit, demanded grueling hours. We're not talking about a long day here and there. We're talking 12, 14, even 16-hour shifts, 6 or 7 days a week. Men, women, and even young children were subjected to these dangerous and exhausting conditions. There was no concept of a weekend or time off. Your life was, quite literally, your work. Imagine that for a second. You wake up before sunrise, head into a dark, noisy factory, work until long after the sun has set, and then stumble home just to get a few hours of sleep before doing it all over again. There was no time for family, no time for hobbies, no time for rest. People were being treated like components of the machines they operated, replaceable and disposable. It was an unsustainable and inhumane system, and it didn't take long for the workers to realize that something had to give. They were exhausted, sick, and felt powerless on their own. But together, they had a voice. This is where the labor movement begins to take shape. Workers started organizing themselves into unions to collectively bargain for better conditions. Their core demand was simple, yet revolutionary: a shorter workday. They weren't just asking for a little break. They were fighting for the right to have a life outside the factory walls. Their rallying cry became 8 hours for work, 8 hours for rest, and 8 hours for what we will. It was a powerful, balanced vision for a humane life. This wasn't just a polite request, either. It was a fight. Workers organized protests and strikes, often at great personal risk. They faced backlash from factory owners and even violence from authorities. One of the most famous events was the Haymarket Affair in Chicago in 1886, which began as a peaceful rally for the 8-hour day, but ended in tragedy. Despite the setbacks and the danger, the idea of an 8-hour day had been planted, and it wasn't going away. Now, you might think the big change came from a benevolent government or a sudden change of heart from all business owners. But one of the most significant pushes came from a very unlikely source. One of the biggest capitalists of them all, Henry Ford. In 1914, Ford did something that shocked the industrial world. He not only doubled his workers' pay to $5 a day, but he also cut their workday from 9 hours to 8. His competitors thought he was crazy. They predicted his company would collapse, but the exact opposite happened. Ford wasn't just being generous, he was being strategic. He realized that overworked, exhausted employees are not productive employees. They make mistakes, they get injured, and their morale is terrible. By giving his workers more rest and better pay, he found that their productivity and loyalty soared. The quality of their work improved, and because they had more money and more free time, they could actually afford to buy the very cars they were building. It was a brilliant business move that proved a shorter workday could be good for both the workers and the company's bottom line. Ford's success sent a ripple effect through American industry. Other companies, seeing the results, began to adopt the 8-hour day to attract the best workers and stay competitive. The standard was starting to shift, not just because it was humane, but because it was profitable. The momentum was building, but the 40-hour work week wasn't yet the law of the land. The final piece of the puzzle fell into place during the Great Depression. With massive unemployment sweeping the nation, the government was looking for ways to create more jobs. The logic was simple. If you have one person working an 80-hour week, you have one job. But if you limit that person to 40 hours, you create a second job for someone else. In 1938, President Franklin D. Roosevelt signed the Fair Labor Standards Act. This landmark piece of legislation officially established the 40-hour, 5-day work week for many American industries. It also set a national minimum wage and required overtime pay for any hours worked beyond 40. The decades-long fight was over. The 8 hours for work, 8 hours for rest, 8 hours for what we will dream had become the American standard. For over 80 years, the 40-hour work week has been the foundation of our professional lives. It has shaped our cities, our family structures, and our entire concept of a weekend. But here we are, in the 21st century, and the world looks nothing like it did in 1938. We have computers in our pockets that are more powerful than the machines that sent men to the moon. Artificial intelligence is automating tasks that once took humans hours to complete. The internet allows many of us to work from anywhere, at any time, blurring the lines between the office and the home. So, the big question is a standard created in the industrial age still right for the digital age? This is a huge debate happening right now all over the world. On one side, people argue that with today's technology, we should be able to get the same amount of work done in less time. They point to studies and real-world trials, like those in Iceland or at various tech companies, where a 4-day work week has been tested. The results are often surprising. In many cases, productivity either stays the same or even increases, while employee well-being, health, and job satisfaction skyrocket. Proponents say a shorter week could lead to less burnout, better mental health, and a more engaged workforce. It also gives people more time for family, education, and contributing to their communities. They argue that we are clinging to an outdated tradition simply because that's the way it has always been done. On the other hand, there are strong arguments for keeping the 40-hour standard, or at least being cautious about changing it. Critics worry that a compressed work week could lead to longer, more stressful workdays, even if there are fewer of them. For some industries, especially customer-facing or manufacturing roles, it's simply not practical to just shut down for an extra day. There are also concerns about a potential drop in overall output and competitiveness on a global scale. Some business owners fear that paying the same salary for fewer hours could cripple their finances. They argue that the 40-hour week provides a reliable, predictable structure that has served the economy well for decades. It's a system that everyone understands, and changing it could create unforeseen complications. So, what's the future of work going to look like? The truth is, nobody knows for sure. It's unlikely that we'll see a single, universal standard replace the 40-hour week. Instead, we're probably moving toward a more flexible and varied future. Some companies might fully embrace a 4-day week. Others might offer more flexible hours, allowing employees to choose when they start and end their day. The rise of remote and hybrid work is already a massive shift, giving many people more control over their schedules and environments. Perhaps the future isn't about a specific number of hours at all, but about focusing on results and output. As long as the work gets done to a high standard, does it really matter if it took 30 hours or 40? The history of the 40-hour work week is a powerful reminder that the way we work isn't a force of nature, it as a human invention. It was born out of a struggle for a better, more balanced life. And now, we find ourselves at another crossroads with new tools and new challenges. The conversation started by those factory workers over a century ago is continuing today, as we all try to figure out what a healthy, productive, and meaningful life looks like in the modern world. What do you think? Is it time for a change? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks so much for watching and exploring this piece of history with me. If you found this interesting, please give this video a like and consider subscribing for more deep dives into the systems that shape our world. See you in the next one.